In the gritty streets of 1920s Chicago, a notorious figure emerged, destined to leave an indelible mark on American history. This is the story of Al Capone, the enigmatic gangster whose reign during the Prohibition era would become the stuff of legends. A city in turmoil. In the backdrop of Prohibition, Chicago was a city teeming with underground activities. With the sale and consumption of alcohol banned, the demand for bootlegged liquor skyrocketed. Enterprising individuals saw an opportunity to amass wealth and power in this illicit trade. Among them was a young Al Capone, an ambitious and ruthless man with a hunger for control. The rise of Capone. As Prohibition tightened its grip on the nation, the stage was set for Al Capone's meteoric rise in the world of organized crime. With the ban on alcohol, Chicago became a fertile ground for bootleggers and gangsters, and Capone seized the opportunity to make his mark. In the dimly lit backrooms and smoky speakeasies, Capone began building his criminal empire. Through a combination of shrewd business acumen, intimidation, and strategic alliances, he quickly gained control over the city's illegal alcohol trade. His reputation for ruthless efficiency and swift retribution spread like wildfire, solidifying his position as a force to be reckoned with. Capone's rise to power was marked by calculated moves and calculated violence. He formed alliances with influential figures, including corrupt politicians and law enforcement officers, who turned a blind eye to his illicit activities. With their protection and support, Capone's operation thrived, generating immense profits and expanding his influence throughout Chicago. But it wasn't just his criminal exploits that propelled Capone to the top. He was a master of public relations, carefully cultivating an image of a benevolent benefactor in the eyes of the impoverished communities. He organized soup kitchens and charitable events, earning him loyalty and admiration from those who benefited from his generosity. With each passing day, Capone's empire grew stronger. He diversified his criminal ventures, branching out into gambling, prostitution, and extortion. He established a network of speakeasies and underground casinos, where the rich and famous rubbed shoulders with the underworld elite. As Capone's power and wealth grew, so did his ego. He reveled in the lavish lifestyle, surrounded by luxury, fine dining, and entertainment. He became a celebrity of sorts, a figurehead of the glamorous and dangerous world of organized crime. The Reign of Terror. As Capone's power grew, so did his reputation for violence. He ruled with an iron fist, eliminating rivals, bribing law enforcement, and instilling fear in those who dared to defy him. The streets of Chicago became a battleground for warring gangs, and Capone stood at the center of it all, orchestrating the mayhem from behind the scenes. With complete control over the Chicago underworld, Capone established a regime of fear that extended beyond his rivals. He imposed his will upon the city, demanding loyalty and obedience from those under his influence. Anyone who dared to cross him or challenge his authority faced dire consequences. Capone's enforcers, known as the Capone crew, carried out his orders with ruthless efficiency. They were notorious for their brutality, leaving a chilling imprint on the streets they patrolled. Extortion, intimidation, and violence became the norm as Capone's reign of terror reached its peak. In his quest for power, Capone wasn't content with simply controlling the criminal underworld. He sought to infiltrate every aspect of society, extending his influence into the realm of politics and law enforcement. Bribes and corruption ensured that his operations went undisturbed, and his enemies were swiftly silenced. The Reign of Terror cast a dark shadow over Chicago. Innocent civilians lived in constant fear, caught in the crossfire of the gangland wars and subjected to the whims of a man who showed no mercy. Capone's empire expanded to include illegal gambling dens, prostitution rings, and drug trafficking, further entrenching his grip on the city. The downfall of Capone's empire eventually caught the attention of law enforcement, most notably the renowned federal agent Eliot Ness. Determined to bring down Capone and dismantle his criminal operation, Ness led a team known as the Untouchables. Through relentless investigation and targeted efforts, they worked to expose Capone's illicit activities and bring him to justice. A dedicated team of law enforcement agents, led by the incorruptible Eliot Ness, emerged as Capone's greatest adversaries. They were determined to bring down the infamous gangster and dismantle his criminal organization. Ness assembled a group of courageous and incorruptible men known as the Untouchables, who were immune to Capone's bribes and threats. The investigation into Capone's illicit activities gained momentum, with evidence mounting against him. The authorities focused on his involvement in bootlegging, tax evasion, and other criminal enterprises. Every detail meticulously gathered, building a case that would finally hold Capone accountable for his crimes. In a bold move, Ness and his team targeted Capone's illegal alcohol operations. They conducted numerous raids on his speakeasies and breweries, seizing large quantities of illegal alcohol and shutting down his sources of income. Capone's empire began to crumble as his lucrative alcohol trade was disrupted. The pressure on Capone intensified as the legal system closed in on him. In a landmark trial, he faced charges of tax evasion, a seemingly minor offense, but one that carried significant consequences. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, meticulously showcasing Capone's hidden wealth and his deliberate efforts to evade taxes. As the trial unfolded, Capone's image as a powerful and untouchable figure started to crumble. He was found guilty of tax evasion and sentenced to prison, effectively ending his reign as the most notorious gangster of his time. The downfall of Al Capone served as a symbol of justice prevailing over corruption and brought a sense of relief to the city of Chicago. The trial and imprisonment. The trial of Al Capone became a media spectacle, capturing the attention of the nation. The courtroom was filled with reporters, spectators, and individuals eager to witness the downfall of the infamous gangster. The prosecution presented a compelling case, showcasing Capone's involvement in organized crime and his lavish lifestyle funded by illegal activities. Capone, known for his cunning and manipulative nature, hired a team of skilled defense attorneys to challenge the charges against him. They attempted to undermine the credibility of witnesses and cast doubt on the prosecution's evidence. However, the overwhelming evidence against Capone proved to be insurmountable. During the trial, Capone's true character was exposed to the public. Witnesses testified to his acts of violence, extortion, and intimidation. The once feared gangster appeared vulnerable and exposed as the truth behind his criminal activities unfolded in the courtroom. Despite his efforts to evade justice, Capone was found guilty on multiple charges. The judge delivered a stern sentence, ensuring that the gangster would pay for his crimes. Capone was sentenced to a lengthy prison term, serving time in a federal penitentiary. Imprisonment marked a significant turning point in Capone's life. Stripped of his wealth, power, and influence, he was reduced to an ordinary inmate, confined within the prison walls. The notorious gangster faced the harsh realities of life behind bars, surrounded by individuals whose lives had been affected by his criminal actions. While incarcerated, Capone's health deteriorated, partially due to the effects of syphilis. His physical decline became a symbol of the consequences of a life filled with violence and corruption. The once feared gangster now struggled with his own mortality, isolated from the world he once controlled. The legacy of Al Capone. Although Capone's reign was marked by violence and lawlessness, his name would forever be associated with the dark allure of gangsters and the Prohibition era. His life and crimes became the inspiration for countless books, movies, and legends, solidifying his status as one of America's most infamous figures. The story of Al Capone serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the consequences of unchecked power and the enduring struggle between law enforcement and organized crime. As we reflect on this chapter in history, let us remember the lessons learned and strive to create a society free from the grip of criminal enterprises.